Hello and welcome to my channel Knitting Books etc. My name is Cristina and I come to you from Lisbon, Portugal. Today I'm going to just talk about the books I read in August. So I was not at home, I was on holidays, and I participated in a great number of buddy reads and read-alongs, which is something I need to get some more control in, because I am so very tempted by all the read-alongs that I see, because they are all books I want to read and then I cannot resist. So that's why for September I almost signed in to 15 books, I think, but I have to go and take a look at my TBR and what I'm reading now in September and cull that list, because now I'm back to work and time is not very much. But today I'm going to talk about what I read in August. So the first book I have here, I'm looking at my Goodreads list, and the first book I have here is a fantasy book by Adrian Tchaikovsky, Empire in Black and Gold. This is the number one of a series of 10 books called Shadows of the Apt. And this was, this is a read-along organized by Alan from the Library of Alexandria. And I love this book. The idea is that it's a world where people, so they are like human beings, but they belong to several races, and each race has an affinity with an insect. So we have, I don't know how many insects, because not only insects, because there's spiders too, and spiders are not insects. The world is fascinating and the characters are also very interesting. The first book, Empire in Black and Gold, this refers to the wasps. So this is a typical resistance against an empire who wants to dominate the world, and in this case the empire is the wasp empire. So but we have, I don't know how many insects. What is funny is that I hate insects, but this story makes me feel better about them. It's funny, has nothing to do with reality, it's a fantasy book. But anyway, I love the book. All the characters, they are quite complex, and I am now actually reading the second book in this series. Then we have Dune. This was a first for me too, so I had never, I think that I am more inclined to read science fiction now, and Dune is such a classic that I also enrolled in a read-along of the 6 volumes written by Frank Herbert. And this was the first one, and it was fascinating too, and there's lots of stuff there, things to meditate about. But the idea is that there is a new presiding family in a planet which is called Arrakis, and this planet, it's essential for the whole community, I don't know, empire, whatever that is. And so but you have lots of politics and things related to this planet, which is fascinating. You also have natives of this planet who lived, the particular thing of this planet is that it's a desert planet. So we imagine sand all over and lots of heat and no water. So it actually gives me a big appreciation for the water I have. Then we have The Hobbit. So because I'm also participating in the read along of the Lord of the Rings, I decided to, after reading the Silmarillion in July, I decided to read The Hobbit in August, because the read along of the Lord of the Rings, it's going to be in September, October and November. So it's a fun read, and we get, especially after, I think that reading the Silmarillion, which it was a first time for me, I had never read the Silmarillion, it gives us much more appreciation for the whole Middle Earth and all the mythology and everything related to the story. So it was very good for me to remind me of The Hobbit, and also to get all the references to Bilbo that we have in Lord of the Rings. Then I participated in the 5 months mission of Star Trek with the Star Trek reading, organized by Vin from Revenant Reads and other booktubers. And the idea is to read I'm sorry about the noise, this is my washing machine which is trying to fly or something like that. This idea is that every month we read one season or one series of Star Trek. So the first month, August, was to read a book related to the original series, and now in September it's the Next Generation and so on. And so I read the book Strangers from the Sky. It's from a series of books. It was the first book from a series of books where the protagonists are from the original series. I have to say that I found it quite boring, this book. It had lots of points of view, lots of timelines, lots of confusion, which I normally like, but in this case it didn't add much to the story, and I don't know, it dragged for me. It was an okay book, but it was not, I didn't enjoy much of the reading. Then we have Sanctuary, which is the book which was chosen for Faulkner in August. And although the book was, for me, it was an okay book. So I was not one of those people. The book is hard, and many people disliked it immensely. I didn't like the story. It's not that I didn't like. I actually have to say that I enjoyed the book more than many other people, in a way. So I like the way Faulkner writes. This was much more of a linear narrative, but still he manages to don't say things up front, and you have to make your conclusions of what's happening or what has happened, which is for me very interesting. The problem of the story is that everyone is awful, so it's a kind of the evil, the ugly, the whatever. And what was fascinating for me here, in this case, it was the read-along itself. So there was a Voxer group which was amazing. So for me it was one of the most pleasurable reading experiences this August, because of the group of the people and all the exchange of ideas and the comments, etc. Even with a book that the great majority disliked. So this is again, it's so interesting how sharing ideas about a book can improve your experience of the book itself. I am grateful to all the people that participated in the read along because it was great. Then I have here Assassin's Apprentice. This is the first book of Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. I have heard so many people talk about this whole world created by Robin Hobb and all the books of this world that it's one of the many series that I decided to start, and I really liked it. Here we have we see the first a character Fitz, and he narrates the story. It starts when he's around 6 until he's grown up, and so many miserable things happened to him. Still, it was a very enjoyable read, and I intend to go on with this series. Another series I started was the Great Coat series by Sébastien de Castel. I think he's a Canadian writer, and the number 1 was Traitor's Blade, and this was so fun. So this is a fantasy series, but it looks a little bit like they even compare it to the Three Musketeers and that type of book where people have there's a group of the Great Coats were a group of which were like the Musketeers were for the King of France. In this case, it was the king of this world, and they were the group of people that were loyal until the end to the king. And now the king is dead, and they are kind of banned, this group. But so interesting. I loved the Traitor's Blade, and I read it, I think, in 2 or 3 days. It was so fun to read, and they are very fun. So the dialogue, it's quite amusing. Another read-along I participated in was The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov, and this was a very fun book. So I read this with Christy Lewis, Noah, and some Instagrammers. I don't know every name by heart, and this was completely crazy book. So I didn't know what to make of it, because this is in a way a portrait of life in Russia. This is in the 30s, I guess. I think I'm not sure. And so post-revolution, Stalin era, but it's a completely crazy story where I was reading. Every chapter was a delight to read, but I didn't know what to make of it. But now that I think that it's a book I want to reread, and it's also very fun to consider that this was a book that the author didn't see published because he was not allowed to publish it during the Stalin era. So he died before it was published, unfortunately. And nowadays, I learned this in a Discord conversation with a reader from Russia. He said that this is part of Russian, daily Russian culture. So everyone, almost every day, quotes from this book or makes a reference from something that is said in this book, which is, I think it's amazing, and I imagine that Bulgakov could never dream of the importance that his book would have in the Russian society. it's a book I will get back to, I'm sure, because I need to learn more and more about Russian history and Russian society, and then read the book. But it's still, even if you're completely ignorant, it's a ride. It's a funny book. Finally, two more or less, after I finished all the books I was reading, either for read-alongs or for myself, I decided to pick up a Agatha Christie book, and I read Five Little Pigs. Many people enjoyed this book a lot. I did enjoyed it, but it was, I don't know, I must be already, I read so many mystery books that and I read many Agatha Christie, so it was very easy for me to find out who the guilty person was. The interesting story here, this is a Poirot case, but the interesting thing is that it's a case that is 16 years old. I mean, there was a person convicted of a crime, and now they ask Poirot to find out who the really guilty person is, because they didn't believe that the person convicted was the real murder. So I enjoyed the reading, but it was obvious who the guilty person was. And these were the books I read in August. So now I will record another one talking about everything I'm reading in September, which is a lot as well. Until then, I'll see you soon.